Servus and welcome to another episode of the Pro Hockey Pod, episode 69. This week was a little different. Our guest this week was Clarkson's head coach, JF Houle, and we only had about 20 minutes, as you guys are gonna see in the interview here. So I really had to, normally I have about anywhere between 45 to 60 minutes planned worth of questions, and I like to get in depth with the coaches and kind of pick their brains. And obviously, because we were short of time, I had to really buzz through them, and I just skip a lot of them as you guys will notice. Really skip through his career, so I wanted to kind of go through what we talked about based off my memory here, and kind of talk about his career a little more. So there obviously it makes the episode a little longer, and also you guys, the listeners out there, could get more information kind of about JF and everything he's been through. So um, as I mentioned at the start, he was born in Quebec there. His dad. Uh, was an NHL player. So he played a long career, 14 seasons for the Montreal Canadians and also the Quebec Nordiques. I think it was 11 in Montreal and three in Quebec there. But so obviously, JF was born right into kind of the NHL lifestyle. Immediately became a Habs fan, as he mentions in the interview, and there wasn't really a choice for him to not get into hockey. But I think it was a good upbringing for him, obviously being around kind of his dad who had made it professionally to the highest level, and also being around, whether it's the locker rooms or that kind of atmosphere, I think kind of paved the way for him at a very young age there. And that's like he brought up his memories of his dad playing in the NHL and stuff like that. So it's always good to hear about that. It's always good for people who I think can experience that at a young age. And obviously then the game is kind of in your veins, in your blood. So we didn't really talk about much about his minor hockey career. Obviously, grew up in the Montreal area there. One thing we did get into and I brought up was, he before going the NCAA route, like he had been drafted to the QMJHL in the third round by Victoriaville, and I asked him in the interview if he had ever thought about going that route. I mentioned multiple times on this podcast, like, back then, and especially when I was growing up, like us Canadians, like the CHL route is obviously the first thing that comes to mind, because there's always a team somewhere close by. As I mentioned, for me, multiple times, I grew up in Peterborough until I was 12. So we had the Petes, and that's a very historic organization. I always dreamed of playing for the Petes and never had thought about another route, never really knew about it. So it was cool to talk to him about, if he had any thoughts of going there, and he explained his reasons. And then obviously, another thing that was cool for him at a young age before even going to college was he got drafted to the NHL. So he got drafted to the Montreal Canadiens. So kind of, full circle there. I'm sure his dad was proud as well that his son got drafted to the team that he spent so long playing for. And, playing also getting drafted for his childhood dream team. That would be like me getting drafted to the Toronto Maple Leafs. It would just be amazing to say that I was at one point recognized by them. And yeah, so like even before he went to college, as I mentioned, he had been drafted in both the QMJHL and also the NHL, which is obviously nice to have on the resume. And then yeah, after a couple visits and a couple school offers, like he went into the reasons why he ended up going to Clarkson University. I think the school size and also being closer to home so his parents could come and watch him was a big couple reasons there. And he talked about his 4 years there and how he really enjoyed it. Really great experience for him, and especially his senior year there, he put up 57 points and was the captain. And I also asked him kind of about his time there, like how he tried to lead. I'm always curious to talk to people who have worn letters to kind of see, like, what are the traits that are common, and what are maybe ones that aren't so common that the guest or speaker seems to think is very important. So he brought up some there, and obviously, you know, like any, it goes back to just kind of leadership and hard work and being a good teammate. That's one thing he brought up a lot on this podcast was, being a good teammate, which obviously is never lost on me and shouldn't be lost on anyone out there. It's whether you're playing a lot or playing, not as much as you think you should. At the end of the day, you always want to be a good teammate because people will remember you for that. Um, and, I think just being a good person in general is obviously good. You can still be competitive. You can have your battles on the ice, but, always have your guys' backs and be an easygoing person. I think that's always good. Um, after Clarkson there, he started on his pro career, so he ended up playing 5 years professionally between the AHL and the East Coast, and I brought up kind of that experience as well. For someone like him that it's a grind, and he admitted that too. It is a grind. Getting the call ups and for him especially, like he would do really well at the ECHL level. Like even his first year, he put up 62 points, and he only got 7 games up in the AHL, and he was fortunate enough to get one full season in the AHL the next season, but still like would put up numbers consistently in the ECHL there in the coast, but just couldn't for whatever reason stick. And I asked him if that had been like mentally tough for him and frustrating, and he was honest and said, yeah, it was, and as it was for any athlete, as I said, we're all competitive. So, and then after that, his career, like obviously the question is, what do you do next, right? And I obviously, like a lot of the college guests I've had on, I've asked, was it always a plan to coach? And he had obviously when he was at Clarkson, the assistant coach at the time, George Roll, was now the head coach, and um, you know, I guess they had a good connection, and he was offered a job and a way to get his foot in the door, and obviously, spent his first 7 years as an assistant coach there at Clarkson under George Roll. And I mentioned in a previous episode, George Roll is a very well-known name in NCAA hockey. For me, he used to be at Oswego where I went, and then the my coach that I had at Oswego, Ed Gosick, had worked for him and talked about everything that he had taught him and stuff like that. And if you look at George Roll's resume, he's been at multiple schools, whether it's D1 or D3, and had success and been there for long tenure. So obviously, it's a name that most people in college know. And as JF brought up, like he learned a lot from him, was a sponge. And um, another thing he brought up, which obviously you can see throughout his career, is he liked to switch places. Whether that was NCAA to major junior or major junior to pro. Um, these are things he felt that were important. And I also brought up during the podcast that Troy Ward had also said that it's good to try to go as many places you can when you're early on, because you can, kind of learn from everybody, pick things from certain coaches that you like and add it to kind of your recipe, your DNA for what you want to do as a head coach one day whenever you get that opportunity. So JF did the same thing. He obviously was fortunate enough to get a head coaching job his first year in the QMJHL there in Lewiston, and they had a very good season. And they went to the conference finals, as you'll hear. And unfortunately, after that year, the team folded. So he was kind of left without a job and had to scramble, and obviously got one late and went to Blainville there for the Armada and stayed there for 3 seasons, and had success there as well. And as I mentioned during the podcast, his second year, first year in Blainville, but second year in the league as a head coach, he wins Coach of the Year, which is obviously a tremendous achievement, and would show kind of, even at a young age, or maybe not as experienced head coach as he was, he obviously had a very good effect. And he talked about this year, specifically the first year in Blainville, was supposed to be like kind of like a building year. Like there wasn't high expectations or anything like that. And he ends up winning Coach of the Year. They put up 40 wins. So I think it was, a tremendous feat for him, and just goes to show you out there that you never know. And, at the end of the day, he put his head down and worked hard and did everything he could to have success, and it worked out. And after his stint there for 3 years with the Armada, he ends up going pro, which I think it was cool to talk to JF about this, because he had basically coached at every type of level there is. Like he's coached at college, he's coached at major junior, and he's coached at pro. So he ends up going to the Bakersfield Condors, who at the time were still an East Coast team. He was the head coach there. And then the next season, due to the changes the leagues kind of made, like some teams, coast teams became their AHL teams, and the AHL teams became the coast teams, etc. Bakersfield was one of those teams that bumped up and I believe took the place of Oklahoma City. So then Bakersfield was the AHL affiliate for the Edmonton Oilers, and they still are to this day. So, JF ends up going there. He was there for, I believe, 6 seasons as assistant coach, and he worked with, head coaches like Jerry Fleming, who obviously was in our league last year in the DL, or 2 years ago, sorry, in Frankfurt, and as coach in Switzerland. And then obviously Jay Woodcroft, who, had success there, and then eventually would get the Edmonton Oilers job, as we all know. So another great bunch of guys, I would say, that he got to learn from, kind of pick what he liked, maybe what he didn't like. And one other thing I thought was cool that I got to bring up is obviously a player we have here in Mannheim, Luke Esposito. He ended up playing for RF there for 3 years, and Luke had just come out of college at Harvard University and got to know JF a bit and only spoke highly things of him and said a lot to me like personally on the side about how he really helped him and was just like a great guy to obviously be a coach of the guys, but also like you could go to him and have a good time as well. And he was kind of that great assistant coach, as you like most assistant coaches to be, that kind of players coach. And at the end of the day, we talked about his role there, and he said he just wanted to try to make guys improve every day and move them on to the next level or the highest level that they could get to. And obviously, that was something Luke brought up. And, obviously, I think he did a good job. They had a lot of guys who ended up getting called up to the Oilers over the years. And at the end of the day, as an assistant coach or a coach working with an affiliate, that's always your goal. Kind of after those COVID years, I would say, as I always talk about this, it's so funny to think that COVID happened. But JF got a head coaching job in the AHL there with Laval Rockets. So, working for the AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, so the team that drafted and the team that he spent so much time with throughout his life because of his dad, or if it was him in camps. And, he ended up staying there for 3 years. And, we talked about his experience there and obviously the dynamic of how the leagues work. I'm always curious to hear about like each coach's kind of connection with the NHL team, whether it's the head coach or GM. When guys come down, what they're instructed to do. When guys go up, what happens, like just kind of that communication and the kind of the overall plan. I'm very curious about that, and I like talking to people. Obviously, previous guest Troy Ward had done it too with Calgary, and he had talked about at times how it could be difficult because you might not see somebody getting the same amount of ice time that the NHL team thought they should because of based on whatever happening, if it was play or something behind the scenes. And me and JF kind of talked about that as well, and the common communication and again just kind of trying to make guys better every day. And he also brought up a very good point, which I think for a lot of coaches out there would know, especially in the minor leagues, of pro, whether it's AHL or ECHL, just kind of the constant turnover you always have, right? Guys getting called up, guys getting sent down, guys getting released. Like, the rosters every year have, whether it's 40 to 50 names on there every year just because of, injuries or call-ups, whatever, as I mentioned. So there's a lot, you're always having to put guys in the lineup and maybe they're playing in higher roles than they should, or maybe it's somebody new, doesn't know the systems right away and you're playing a 3-and-3. Like that's just kind of the beauty and also the toughness of that league, I would say. And it is a grind, like as I mentioned, and it's a grind also for the coaching staff as well. But that's why, yeah, the day we love the game, and that's why we do it. So, and he was very honest too. He obviously had a 3-year offer somewhere in the AHL after to continue coaching pro, and he also had the chance to go back to where it all began for him at Clarkson and become the head coach there, come full circle. And he took that opportunity, and for family reasons and longevity, I think I can understand that. I believe he's, close to 49, 50 years old. And, obviously college jobs, are known for, a little more stability, I would say. And I think for him, it was obviously a dream job. I mean, everyone dreams of being in the NHL, but at the same time, like he had been a player there, he had been an assistant coach, and to finally, take the reins. And yeah, so we talked about that briefly, and I wanted to talk to him a little more about his recruiting. Obviously, I asked him the question about, how he or what types of players he looks to have at Clarkson and kind of the identity they want to buid there. And, I'd like to I would have liked to talk to him more about that, but obviously we're short of time just because, like, as I mentioned on previous episodes, like as a head coach in NCAA, like you are the coach and the general manager at the same time, right? So your focus is, coaching the team every day, running practices, taking care of your athletes, but at the same time, you also have to be watching a lot of video and maybe traveling to games to scout players for the future because it's just an ongoing, 4-year, 5-year window for some of these players, and then they leave and you got to replace them, right? So it's always cool to kind of hear like how everyone does it. And like a previous guest that I had on, Brett Riley, like, his first year as a head coach, like the team he had joined in Wilkes there, they didn't play. So he talked about he probably saw over 1,000 games live and lived in his car and, joked had back problems because of driving so much over that first year just to try to build that program up, something that he really enjoyed doing. So it's always cool to talk to coaches like that. And then obviously at the end, always end on the question of, what would be some advice he would give the the younger generation out there, and he just went back to kind of his roots and say, be a good person, be a good teammate. Normally for those people, it all works out, and people remember those people. So yeah, the episode was really it was short but good. As I said, I wish I could have had more time with him, but he was a little tight on time and had to go. But I think for the 20 minutes we got through there, I got some important questions out there. I definitely liked a lot of his answers, and you can see why he's coached at multiple levels, and has had the success he's had, and obviously, his name is known, and now whether it's NCAA or major junior or even pro. So I think, many opportunities will always be there for him. I asked him that too, kind of at the end, if he had any personal goals, whether it was to go back to pro or continue just the NCAA road, because he is, not getting younger, as he mentioned. He just kind of said he lives it kind of day by day and will never rule anything out, but just kind of enjoys the journey. Enjoys the ride. Like I say to so many people, whether it's if you're a player or coach, or even myself in a position where I am right now in Mannheim, like it's, you always have ups and downs, but just enjoy the ride and never take it for granted, because one day it could end. You could be without a job, or you have to change because of family reasons or whatever. So yeah, I really enjoyed talking to JF. Pretty sure I butchered his name. I tried to throw a French accent on the last bit there, but yeah, hope you guys enjoy the episode. As I said, it's a little shorter. It's literally 20 minutes right on the dot, I think. So hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Servus, so welcome to another episode of Pro Hockey Pod, episode 69. Still continuing this college series. Very happy to be doing this, talking to a lot of NCAA coaches lately. Another one on this week, but I'd have to say this guy's been at all levels, and that's something that I'm very looking forward to talking about. He's coached, whether it's NCAA, major, junior, and also pro. So very happy to pick his brain. And he also came from a strong hockey family background where his dad played in the NHL. Happy to have on this week the head coach at Clarkson University, JF Houle. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Um, so as I mentioned, like you came from that hockey background. It must have been a very unique childhood for you. Your dad obviously playing 14 seasons there in the NHL in Montreal, and I believe in Quebec as well. Like, what's kind of your earliest childhood memory, and was he a big influence in you getting into hockey?
Yeah, obviously he was a big influence. I grew up in those locker rooms where they won a lot of championships. I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. It's he's played the game a long time. He was a GM, so for sure I look up to him, and very fortunate to be able to hang around all those great players that won a lot of Stanley Cups. So thankful for that.
Where's your allegiance lie to? The Habs or the Nordiques?
The Habs, no doubt about the Habs. My father only played for the Nordiques for 3 years, and I was born in Quebec City. But the Habs is where we spent most of our time as a family. I also worked in that organization, so for our family, the Montreal Canadiens is very important.
I noticed too, being someone that obviously went the college route in the end, but you were drafted in the QMJHL in the third round by the Victoriaville there. Had you ever had a thought of going that route, or did you always have your eyes set on the NCAA route?
No, absolutely. I did have some thoughts about it, but for me, it was important to go to college route, get my degree, and I wasn't quite ready, I guess, maybe for major junior, but um, it's I wish the rule would have changed. Like it's changed now, but you could play major junior then go to college, because I think it's the best of both worlds for the kids to play major junior then go NCAA. So yeah, for sure I had some thought about it.
And it must have been pretty surreal for you as well, getting drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, and obviously the team that your dad played for, and your favorite teams, a place that you obviously were very known around. When you went to Clarkson there, like what kind of made you pick Clarkson? Like I'm sure someone like yourself had done multiple visits, but what ended up being the deciding factor for you going to Clarkson University?
Yeah, I did multiple visits. For me, it was proximity to Montreal. My parents would be able to come and see me play. Also, the size of the campus. It's a small campus here at Clarkson. I knew I could get help with my education here if I had any. I wasn't very fluent in English back then, so for me, it was important to be to go to a small institution. And the fact that hockey is the only Division 1 sport on campus, I think a good thing here at Clarkson that we have going for hockey, and that's why I choose Clarkson.
It's always good to be the main sport, I would say. And if you can go to any school where there's no football, you probably have a good chance of it being hockey. I noticed in your senior year too, you were the captain. Like I just kind of wanted to ask you, you know, how you tried to lead that year and maybe what you believe a good captain has for like characteristics and leadership.
Yeah, I think being a good teammate is very important. I was wearing a C that year with Todd White, who had numerous game in the NHL, a good friend of mine, and for us, it was just bringing the team together at the right time and leading by example on the ice with the small details of the game. I believe that if your captains are doing the small details, and the rest of the team should usually follows. So. Leadership is an important thing in hockey, and it was a good year for us that year in '97.
And after that year, as most people's college careers do, they come to an end, and you yourself started your pro career there. I wanted to ask you, like, you obviously kind of did what a lot of people end up doing, which is I want to call it like the grind. You know, you're up and down, like grinding through whether it's ECHL or AHL. Like, how was your experience doing it for those couple of years there? And did you ever maybe get frustrated with, you know, you would do so well, for example, the ECHL level, get called to the AHL, and you know, maybe couldn't get as many games as you thought you deserved or thought you were playing good but couldn't stay kind of thing?
Absolutely, it is a grind. You called it the right thing. It's not easy to be up and down with the ECHL and AHL. You're a drafted player. Your expectations are a little bit higher. You're a young kid, so you don't evaluate yourself properly at times. So it is frustrating a little bit, but it's part of the process in minor hockey, in the minor leagues. You have to go through it, and the biggest challenge is when you start to have some success in the ECHL and you're not getting the call from the American Hockey League. That's you know it's hard to handle, and it could be disappointing at time, but it's part of pro hockey.
Did you always know when your playing career would end that you wanted to get into coaching? Obviously, you ended up becoming an assistant coach at Clarkson University where you had gone to school, but did you always kind of see that as your path?
Yeah, I was always a student of the game. I was always pretty close to all my coaches. Always had questions, and try to pick their brains. And I was pretty certain I was going to be a coach at one time in my life. So as soon as it was ready for me to hang it up, I made a quick phone call to Clarkson, and they were looking for an assistant coach, and that's how I ended up here. But yeah, for sure, coaching was something I thought of.
You got to work with George Roll there for, I believe it was 7 years. I don't know him personally, but being someone that went to Oswego, he obviously was there at one point and has had a long coaching career. I believe this is going to be his final year, actually, when we're talking about. But were you just learning from him every day, trying to soak up, you know, what he was teaching? Because obviously he had been there before as an assistant, I believe, when you were playing. So was it nice to work with him for those 7 years?
Yeah, it was great. George's a great person. He's taught me a lot, and it was a good 7 years as a young coach. That's what you have to do. You just you try to be a sponge, and you learn from others, and it's like that for every progression I had as a coach. It was just an opportunity for me to learn. So that's what I did, and I think that the more you meet people and the more you move, actually, the more the more your knowledge becomes a little bit bigger, because you're meeting new people with different ideas.
I had Troy Ward on, who's the I believe associate head coach or assistant coach there at Mankato, and that was actually one thing he brought up. He said throughout his career he was given advice to, hey, you only stay places maybe 2 or 3 years because you want to learn from that person, then go to the next place. Kind of what you just said, like be a sponge and kind of create your own DNA as a coach. And then I believe that's something you did because after those 7 years, you end up getting your first head coaching job there evidently in the QMJHL, which I think is always unique because it's a different path. You're working with a lot younger athletes there. Your first year in Lewiston there, you guys had a very good season. Like, how was the adjustment for you going from the college kind of background, working in college, maybe guys who are a bit older, than to going to the major junior where it's, different kind of schedule, way more games, younger kids, etc.
Yeah, it was tough at the beginning, and I was green. It was my first job as a head coach, but we had some talented players, talented young players that were making our team pretty good. And it was the biggest challenge was the number of games because when you go from college to major junior, there's a huge difference. So setting the schedule so the players don't practice and school and all that stuff. So that was a biggest challenge, but all good experience. And like you said, I totally believe that as a young coach, it's important to move around. Like if you stay still in one organization for a long period of time, you stop learning a little bit because um, or if you're a head coach somewhere, it's maybe good to maybe go at the next level as an assistant coach and learn from other people as well. So those are all little things that I think really helped me in my path to becoming who I am today.
Yeah, and that's something you obviously did. I'm going to get to that part of it in a minute. But after that year in Lewiston, I believe the team was sold or folded, and you end up having to find a job. You end up going to Blainville, and in your first year there, so your second year as a head coach, you end up winning Coach of the Year. I mean, for someone like yourself, 2 years into being the head coaching job, that must have been such a cool achievement for yourself, winning Coach of the Year of the QMJHL.
Yeah, we were in a rebuild that year, and actually, I went from having no job to finding that job last minute. Pascal Vincent had taken the job with Winnipeg and opened up the Armada with Joel Bouchard, and it was a good year that year. I learned a lot from Joel, and we're supposed to be in a rebuild, and somehow our veterans did a great job at propping up our young players, and we had over 40 wins and a successful season that year. The next 3 years, actually, we had some success, and the Armada was a great organization for me to learn as a young coach. It was a good stepping stone for me.
And as you kind of mentioned before, after those 3 years with the Armada, you end up going the pro route, which, at this point you've done NCAA, you've done major junior, now you're going pro, and you end up being the head coach in Bakersfield there, who then was an ECHL team. You were there one season, and then the next year, with that big switcheroo that happened with, some teams changing leagues, they become the AHL team there working with the Edmonton Oilers, and you become an assistant. So like you said, it was you were a head coach at one level, and then to go up to the next level, you end up becoming an assistant. I believe you worked with a couple NHL coaches at that level. I believe Jay Woodcroft was there at one point, and I can't remember the guy before. But how was it working there for those couple of years as an assistant?
It was good. I was with Jerry Fleming, and I had Jay Woodcroft there. Dave Menson was there as an assistant. I had some great learning while I was there, and obviously, being involved with the Edmonton Oilers and all those great coaches that were with the Oilers during those years. They went through quite a bit of coaches because they were in the rebuild, but you always learn quite a bit during those training camps when you're asked to go up there in the NHL, and it was a great stepping stone for me. The Bakersfield was a good place, and I've learned a lot from Jay Woodcroft and Jerry Fleming.
Not to toot his own horn here, but Lucas Esposito might have said that once you guys got him in your organization, you guys started to have success. I believe you coached him for 3 seasons there. Honestly, speaking to him about you, he speaks nothing but high things about you and what you helped him with in his game, and just said that you were a very good coach with all the players and someone that they could obviously get along with. He shared some funny stories off camera, which I won't repeat, but how was it coaching Luke for those 3 years?
Good, Luca. Luca's great, and he's the type of player that coaches like. Obviously, he's a student of the game himself. He competes, he works, he wants to get better. His attention to detail is excellent, and those are the type of players that coaches like because they're when you talk to them, it's getting retained. It's not going in one year and out the other. So players like Luke are a pleasure to coach, and I felt like I had a good relation with most of our players in Bakersfield, and hopefully I was able to help them, get to the next level. That's what's important as a coach. You want the players that you coach to get to the next level.
Yeah, Luke definitely described that as you, someone that helped guys get to the next level, and obviously that you had a good relationship with everyone. So, as I mentioned, he spoke very highly of you. After your time in Bakersfield there, you end up getting the head coaching job in Laval there. So Montreal's farm system kind of coming full circle, being drafted there, growing up in that organization with your dad, and now coaching the AHL team. I like to ask coaches who've done this, like, what's the communication like? What's kind of the season like with, the guys who are going up and down? Like if Montreal sends you down a player, for example, are they giving you maybe guidelines for what you need to work on them with or how much ice time they need, or how does that like structure normally work?
Yeah, absolutely. When they send a guy down, you get the phone call from the GM, and you have a little conversation about what the players need to work on, why they're down there, and it's just and then it's up to you to meet with the player and try to explain him why he's here and what he needs to improve to get back up. So um, it's that's how the communication works, and it's the same thing when a guy goes up. They give you a call and ask your opinion on who should be coming up and who's playing well and why they should be coming up. So you have a pretty good rapport with the GMs and assistant GMs in the NHL, and it's uh, it's a lot of fun. The American Hockey League was a lot of fun. It's a huge challenge to be a coach in that league because of the amount of turnover and the guys. When you lose a player, you lose your best player every single time. Either it's a forward and a D, and sometimes it's two or three guys at once. So you have to adjust on the fly for the special teams. You have to adjust on everything, and then you have to kind of manage the players that get sent down or the players that there's a lot of emotions there because there's a big difference between making 60,000 and $1 million. So there's a lot of emotions there, and that you have to handle as a AHL coach. But it was a great experience.
It seemed like a very good setup there. Obviously, you had Casimir Kaskasuo at one point, and he documents everything on YouTube, and I really like his videos. So it was cool to kind of see all the behind the scenes stuff that year that he was there with you, and kind of the day to day stuff, the game day setup, the rink, the fans seemed great there. Like it seemed like a very well run AHL organization. So I can see why you speak highly of it. Um, as I mentioned, now you are back at Clarkson, so you're the head coach at Clarkson University. It's come full circle. You were there as a player, you were there as an assistant coach, and now you're there as a head coach. What types of players would you say you're trying to bring into this program? So obviously, you've just been there. This is your first season as a head coach, but like what's kind of the future plan? Maybe the 5 to 10 year plan of like the types of players you want to bring in and maybe type of hockey or culture you want to have at Clarkson.
Yeah, for us, obviously work ethic is the main thing, and having good people, good players that are good teammates. When we scout, we look at a lot of like team captains from junior teams. They have some sort of leadership in them. Um, we want to be a hardworking team that with a little bit of skill. So um, it's going to be it's been fun recruiting here the last 3 months, especially that the CHL has opened up to the NCAA. So um, I think for me, just the quality of a person supersedes what they bring on the ice. I think if you surround yourself by good individuals that want to get better, you have a better chance to win. So that's the type of player that we're trying to recruit here at Clarkson University.
You briefly talked about the new rules that have come in, and I've asked a lot of the coaches on like what their thoughts are, and it's been kind of mixed. But it sounds like you're very in supportive of this, and something that you mentioned you wish you had when you played. But do you think it's just going to make the NCAA game better because now there's going to be a lot of guys who play the major junior route and then come to that level after?
Absolutely, it's going to make both junior the CHL and NCAA. We're going to get some better players that spend a lot of time in the NCAA and the major junior. And the major junior will retain all the players that were trying to save their eligibility in the past that would go into BCHL or prep school or junior A and somewhere just to keep their eligibility for NCAA. Now those great players will be playing in the CHL and the best development world league in the world for that age. So I think it's best of both worlds for the players and the organizations.
No, I definitely agree. I'm excited to see where it goes. Two more quick ones for you because I know you got to run. Do you have any like future personal goals that you like to achieve? Like maybe somewhere you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Is it still where you are at the NCAA route or back to pro? I'm always curious to know kind of coaches' mindsets.
No, you know what? I live pretty much day by day. Like I had a pretty good job in the pros. I actually left a 3 year contract in the American Hockey League and to take this job here at Clarkson. It's my alma mater. I like it here. I have a lot of friends. My family's comfortable here. I'm not getting any younger, so for me, making the move and have a little bit more job security as was nice. I enjoy everything that college hockey brings, and but my options are always open, like any other coaches. But I'm very proud to be back here, and I enjoy every moment. And whatever future, whatever happens in the future, I'm always listening.
It's a good way to live your life, I would say.
Yeah.
Last one for you here. What is one piece of advice or multiple pieces of advice you would give the younger generation out there?
Be a good teammate. I think being a good teammate, it reflects who you are as a person, and not only hockey, but to me, it's you have to be a good product of society, not just a good hockey player. If you're both, it's the best. There's a saying out there that says, "Good player with bad attitude equals bad player." So having a bad attitude is not productive, and be a good person. You'll have some success.
For all you young listeners out there, true words have never been spoken. Be a good person. JF, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got to run here. I wish you guys best of luck this season. As I told you off camera, hopefully, the fans there get to hear that loud goal horn go off a lot this year because I remember playing there as a freshman and that thing scared the hell out of me the first time it went off. So I wish you guys the best of luck this season.
All right, thank you.
And for those listening, go give Clarkson University a follow on Instagram if you're in the area. Definitely go out to a game. It's a loud building. You'll definitely enjoy yourselves. And until next week, cheers and ciao.